What you just heard from Laurent was a wonderful story. Actually a business story. A story about crowdfunding, about raising money. And that's what I'm here to do, to talk about business storytelling. My high performance leadership, on which we'll be doing a workshop in June, is about, it's called Tales from the Campfire, actually business tales from the campfire. For hundreds, maybe thousands of years, men and women have sat around campfires and told stories. Now we're doing that in business. So this is, if you like, a physical and verbal signpost to what we're doing in June. Okay? So what I'm going to do is give you a taster. I'm going to give you a whistle-stop tour about business storytelling. Okay? I'm going to give you very quickly, I'm going to try not to yawn on too much, Marcel, stick with me, okay? When do we tell business stories? What are business stories? Why do we tell business stories? And what aren't business stories? Well, a little bit about story arc. Okay? So when do we tell business stories? Stories about business. We tell them almost at any time if we're sitting with people in business. So I would tell a business story if I was pitching to a client or a customer. I would tell an existing client, customer, a story about something we had done. I would, if addressing staff, I would talk to them. They would be told a story. We knit everything together. If I was applying for a job, I would be telling a business story. It would make what I have to say more interesting and more touchable. So almost on every occasion, when you're involved in business, you can tell a story. It is a tool that you will be mad to ignore. It's very, very powerful. I'll try and touch on it in a while exactly why it is. So if that's when you would tell them, what actually are business stories? What's the difference between a business story and a story? In many respects, nothing. They look the same a little bit. Let me give you an example. Many stories in the world are what we call creation stories, about how things are created. The Bible itself is a creation story. Most films are the building of something, the creation of something. Like Star Wars was the building of an empire. Okay? These are creation stories about things that are created. In business storytelling, we talk about the creation of a business, the creation of a dream. One of the most famous speeches ever given in business storytelling was by Steve Jobs. Everyone knows the story of Steve Jobs, how he was kicked out of Apple, he built Apple up to anything, he was distraught, he was lost, and then he fought his way back, and that is a business story. I've heard that told on numerous occasions. I'm sure you've heard it as well. So you tell business stories on these kind of occasions. You talk about where you came from and where you've gone. Now that's one area. Also, you tell business stories about your customers. You talk about your customers. You talk about where they came from and what they've done and what they've achieved. You talk about your products. What was the idea behind it? Why did you do it? What was the struggle to get there? And how did it work? Now, business storytelling is a very, very big thing at the moment. It has been, well, for a number of years now. A good example of business story is Expedia. In 2012, they did a marketing campaign, and on their websites, they put a lot of videos with people's personal stories. People who've been suffering with cancer and recovering, people who were going on a long journey, and every one of these stories, the one link was they were somewhere on a journey. Now, of course, Expedia sells cut-price holidays. At no point do they mention that. They just allow people to tell their stories. And what happened was the sales doubled overnight. Simply because of the emotional touching. So telling the story is really important. And you can tell it at any time. It's often used stories in business during change management times, when things are hard in companies. People use backlog, histories, stories to bring everyone together, to talk about where they've come from and where they're going to. Now the big question is, why do we tell stories? Why do we bother? Why do we tell business stories? Why do we tell ordinary stories? Well, I'll tell you. I've got a dog, a new puppy, some of you know that. His name's Alfred. He's gorgeous. He's that big, he's a bundle, he's like a little teddy bear, he's a labradoodle. And he comes at me and he's so lovely and fluffy, and I hug him. When he comes at me, he's got razor sharp piranha teeth. Tiny puppy. And this lovely, lovely little puppy comes at me, and then he bites me, and I can't get the bugger off. And he holds on and holds on and holds on. And believe me, I'm bleeding sometimes. And I really have to wrench him off me. And that's what happens with stories. People look at stories as something fluffy and that's not why they're successful. That's not why we've been telling stories for thousands of years. It's pure and utter science. If you tell a story well, the impact of the story goes to the part of the brain that makes decisions. It's the emotional part of the brain. It's where it sticks. And good storytellers know this. So when you tell a story really well, some of the science shows that in fact the person telling the story and the person hearing the story, their brainwaves start to match each other. It's almost like the listener is actually in the story. That cannot be done with data or any other form of delivery. It's actually delivered like a nuclear missile to the brain. And that's why it works. That's why we still tell stories from hundreds and thousands of years ago. But we don't remember the data and the facts from them because that changes over and over again. So that's why we do it. So, what are business stories not? Well, business stories are not lists of facts. They're not how well did I do. They're not blogs. In order to succeed, they have to have a story arc. Do you know what a story arc is? No. Okay. Sorry? Yeah. No, I see some people don't. A story has to have a pattern to it. There are many kinds of story arcs. You've heard Patrick and I banging on about the hero's journey before, which is a way of telling a story. By and large, every story has to have some basic fundamentals. There has to be a hero, and there has to be a struggle, there has to be a conflict. And you've got to remember, people care more about the person who tries than the person who succeeds. So if I tell you how I started a business, how I did well, how I got here today, you would say, so what, I don't care. If I told you how I struggled, how my wife had to clean the office, how I lost money, how I didn't have food on the table, and what I did to change it, all of a sudden, you'd start to care. Because the emotion's in there, and it becomes a story. Now, there are lots and lots and lots of ways of telling these stories. I can see there's a red there. So very quickly, Pixar, you know Pixar, the film studio? They came up with a really easy sentence on how to tell a story. It really is the one for dummies. It starts off, once there was, and then every day, and then every day, and then one day, and because of that, and because of that, and finally. Get it? It leads, and the one day is where it turns. Now, very, very quickly, how many of you were here when Sinead gave her speech about being out of work? Yeah? Now, Sinead had told that story to an employer and talked about her journey, how she was in a job she was happy, and suddenly, at catharsis, when she was sacked, she was alone, scared, didn't know what to do, and then she decided, well, one day, she'd go to a meeting, and she'd go and see if she could meet anybody who would help her. And then, and because of that, and finally, she turns up for the job interview, and then she'd tell me what she learned. If she did that, I'd give her the job. I wouldn't care what it was. Because she would tell me a story about her journey, which I would remember. I wouldn't remember the facts or the information. Because it's the old saying, in a speech, people don't remember what you say. They simply remember how you make them feel. And so